Eveina had imagined many versions of her wedding day, but none included standing beneath white roses while 100 guests watched her fiancé choose another woman. 5 years had led to this room, this dress, this promise. And for several seconds she could not understand why Tristan was walking toward her with Sloane's hand locked in his. The orchestra fell silent. Tristan stopped at the end of the aisle wearing the composed expression Eveina knew too well, the face he used whenever he intended to hurt her and make the pain sound reasonable. "I'm leaving with her," he said. "She's the woman I actually want." Eveina felt every gaze turn toward her. Felt the room register the abandoned bride in the ivory gown. The woman who had apparently not been enough. For years, Tristan had prepared her for this humiliation without ever naming it. He corrected her clothes with gentle concern, reminded her that certain people were image-conscious, and suggested she let him handle important conversations because she could be too intense. He taught her to imagine the insult before anyone else could speak it. Now, facing him beside the woman he had chosen, Eveina realized how often she had mistaken control for care. Tristan stepped closer as if expecting tears. "Evie, I didn't want it to happen like this." Something inside her broke cleanly. The grief remained, but beneath it rose a fury sharper than shame. Eveina looked at the ring on her finger, and suddenly it felt like evidence from a life she no longer recognized. She pulled it off. Tristan's eyes widened. "Don't be impulsive." Eveina threw the ring. It struck his chest and dropped onto the polished floor with a metallic sound that seemed louder than the gasps around them. Then she turned. She did not know what she meant to do until she saw Casiel Romano standing near the back of the ballroom. Casiel was the man businessmen lowered their voices around. The man whose polished corporate empire carried darker rumors beneath it. Eveina's humiliation wanted an exit. Her anger wanted a weapon. For one reckless second, Casiel looked like both. She crossed the room before caution could catch her. Casiel's gaze sharpened as she stopped before him. Eveina grabbed his collar, rose onto her toes, and kissed him. For one breath. There was only heat, and the certainty that Tristan had not anticipated this. Then Casiel kissed her back. His hand settled at her waist, not pulling her closer or claiming her, simply steadying her after she crashed into him like a woman setting fire to the remains of her own wedding. When Eveina pulled away, embarrassment reached her cheeks. Casiel did not smirk or glance toward Tristan like a victor celebrating a rival's defeat. Then Tristan's voice cut through the silence. "What the hell are you doing with her?" Eveina turned. He was striding toward them, furious. Sloane apparently forgotten. Casiel released Eveina immediately. "You just left her," he said. "That doesn't make her yours." Tristan's face hardened. "Stay out of this. She's upset." Eveina almost laughed. "Even now." He spoke as if her emotions invalidated her decisions. "Eveina," Tristan said in the patient tone she had once mistaken for maturity. "You're embarrassing yourself. We'll discuss this when you've calmed down." He still believed there would be a discussion and a return to a world where he decided what happened next. Casiel did not challenge him. Instead, he looked at Eveina. "She belongs to herself." The words were simple, yet they landed somewhere deep inside her. Not mine. Not his. Herself. Eveina looked at Tristan and, for the first time that evening, the humiliation no longer felt like proof that she had lost something precious. It felt like evidence that she had spent too long preserving something that diminished her. "No," she said quietly. Tristan frowned. "No what? No discussion. No explanations. No later." His confidence faltered. "You're emotional." "Probably. But I'm still leaving." She turned toward Casiel, half expecting him to offer his arm and transform the moment into a victory over Tristan. He did nothing. He simply stepped aside, leaving the path to the doors open. The choice remained hers. It remained her choice. Eveina walked forward. Behind her, Tristan called her name. anger replacing disbelief. She kept moving. At the doors, she looked back once. Tristan stood amid the future he had discarded. Furious because the woman he humiliated was refusing to remain available to him. Casiel stood several feet away, watching her rather than his rival. Eveina understood then that the kiss had not made her free. It had been reckless. Wounded. Born from the desire to strike back. The freedom came afterward in refusing to return. In saying no. In taking each step without Tristan's permission. She opened the doors and walked out alone. For the first time in 5 years, Eveina did not feel like a woman who had been rejected. She felt like a woman who had finally chosen herself. By the next morning, Eveina had discovered that public humiliation moved faster than sympathy. Her phone was crowded with missed calls, messages and photographs from the wedding, including a clear image of her gripping Casiel's collar while his hand rested at her waist. Tristan had called more than 20 times. His messages shifted from anger to concern predictably. "Call me. You don't understand, Romano. We need to discuss what you did." Sloane's message was shorter and crueler, accusing Eveina of throwing herself at another man minutes after being abandoned. "Eveina deletadit," silenced Tristan, and went to Heart Atelier because work felt safer than wondering who was discussing her failed engagement or the man she had kissed. She had barely settled into material samples when the studio door opened and Casiel walked in. He wore a charcoal suit, carried no flowers, and offered no dramatic explanation. Instead, he placed a pearl earring on her desk. "You lost this last night." Eveina stared at it. "You came here just to return an earring, yes?" He did not mention the photograph, Tristan, or the kiss until she forced the subject. "About last night, you don't owe me an explanation." His answer unsettled her more than flirtation would have tasted. He did not act as though one impulsive kiss had created a debt or claim. He returned what belonged to her and left. 3 days later, Eveina encountered him again at Romano Dominion during a hotel renovation meeting. Casiel entered near the end, and the room changed around him. Executives straightened. Arguments disappeared. Men defending expensive choices suddenly became agreeable. Eveina watched him with new attention. His power was obvious. But what fascinated her was how little he needed to display it. When the others left, she stayed behind, gathering samples, and finally asked, "Why did you kiss me back?" Casiel looked at her without hesitation. "Because I wanted to." She frowned. "That's all, you asked why?" Eveina accused him of enjoying Tristan's humiliation. He admitted it, then reminded her of a meeting from 2 years earlier. Heart Atelier had been invited to review a luxury property, and while everyone else praised the presentation, Eveina had called the design expensive and completely soulless. She remembered Tristan lecturing her afterward, warning that powerful men remembered disrespect. Casiel had remembered differently. "You were the only person in that room who wasn't trying to guess what I wanted to hear," he told her. The words caught her off guard. He had noticed her before the wedding and before the scandal. He remembered the part of her Tristan had spent years trying to soften the blunt opinions and refusal to flatter. Weeks later, Miles Hartwell gave Casiel an opportunity to reveal a less disciplined side. Miles was an architect working with Heart Atelier. Intelligent, easygoing, and unafraid of flirting with Eveina. He remembered her coffee order. Made her laugh. Casiel happened to be in the studio. "Which restaurant?" he asked. Miles named it. Casiel considered the answer. "Overrated." Eveina waited until Miles left before turning on him. "Do you appear every time another man asks me out?" "No." "Did you investigate him?" A brief silence answered first. "I verified that he wasn't dangerous." Eveina stared at him. "I can do that myself." "I know." That response changed the argument. Casiel was jealous. He disliked Miles's coffee and had learned enough about him to know his finances were clean, and his former partner considered him irritatingly ethical. Yet when Eveina said, "I might say yes," Casiel did not threaten. Commande. Or bargain. His jaw tightened, but his voice remained controlled. Who you have dinner with isn't mine to decide. Tristan's jealousy had always arrived disguised as guidance that dress was too ambitious. That crowd too judgmental. That conversation better handled by him. Casiel could dislike her decision without treating himself as the person entitled to make it. The distinction became undeniable when Tristan appeared at Heart Atelier after interfering with 2 of her contracts. Eveina ordered him to leave. Instead, he accused her of believing herself powerful because Casiel wanted her, and caught her wrist when she stepped away. "Let go," she said. Tristan did not. The door opened. Casiel entered, saw the grip, crossed the room, and removed Tristan's hand from her wrist with frightening calm. "You don't touch someone after she tells you no." Tristan backed away, furious. "You've been waiting for this. To play protector. To take what belongs to me." Before Casiel could answer, Eveina stepped around him. "Stop." She faced Tristan herself. "If you contact my clients again, my attorney will handle it. If you come here without permission, I'll call the police. If you touch me again, you will deal with me. Not Casiel. Me." Casiel said nothing. He did not turn the scene into a contest between men or claim victory when Tristan left. After the door closed, he asked only whether she was hurt. When Eveina warned him not to retaliate, he agreed. "You said no." That answer clarified what separated the 2 men. Tristan believed power gave him the right to shape another person's choices. Casiel possessed far more power, yet understood that strength meant knowing where his authority ended. For Eveina, that restraint was more compelling than protection. Standing beside a dangerous man did not require surrendering ownership of herself. Tristan returned to Heart Atelier on a Monday afternoon, as if 5 years of habit still gave him the right to walk through Eveina's door without permission. "We need to talk," he said. Eveina did not stand. "No. You need to leave. Can we stop behaving like strangers? You brought another woman to our wedding." Strangers would be an improvement. Tristan moved closer. He had not come to apologize. He had come to restore the old balance in which his voice defined reality, and hers was treated as an emotional reaction. "I'm concerned about Romano. You don't know what kind of man he is." Eveina almost smiled. "And you do. He's using you. This is about me. It's fascinating that you still believe everything I do is about you." Then came the familiar weapon, delivered softly. "Romano doesn't date women like you. That dress is ambitious for your figure. Those people are very image-conscious. Maybe let me handle the conversation. You can be a little intense." He taught her to anticipate rejection, lower her voice, hide her body, and soften ideas until no one could accuse her of taking up too much space. Now the pattern was visible. "I don't know what Casiel wants," she said. Tristan's mouth curved faintly. Eveina held his gaze. "But I finally know I don't want you." The satisfaction vanished. Indifference frightened him more than anger. 3 days later, Heart Atelier lost the Ashbourne contract. The client blamed restructuring, but the project manager privately admitted that one of Tristan's investors had raised concerns about Eveina's professional stability after the wedding scandal. Tristan had changed tactics. When he could no longer make her doubt herself, he would make other people doubt her. Eveina forwarded the email to her attorney, saved every message, recorded dates and names, and requested written confirmation from the client. She did not call Casiel. He could probably make a contract reappear with one phone call, but that would replace one form of dependence with another. The next morning, she reorganized the project calendar, contacted former clients, sent proposals, and gathered her team. No one is losing a job because of this. We adjust and keep moving. The second cancellation arrived the following week under an even thinner excuse: reputational complications. Fear reached her, but it no longer became obedience. She met with her attorney, documented the interference, contacted the client directly, and returned to the work that had built Heart Atelier before Tristan mattered. She revised a boutique hotel concept until midnight, rejected a safe palette for something warmer and more daring, and sent the proposal without asking whether it was too much. The client approved it the next morning. Tristan appeared again 2 days later. "Do you have any idea what you've done to my reputation?" he demanded. "You abandoned me at our wedding, and you turned it into a spectacle with Romano. People think I'm weak because of you." "No. They think you're weak because the woman you discarded stopped waiting for you." Eveina stood. "And now you're interfering with my business because humiliating me privately doesn't work anymore." Tristan moved around the desk. "Stop acting powerful because Romano wants you. Leave." Eveina stepped back. He caught her wrist. The grip was casual. Automatics. The physical version of every correction he had made for 5 years if Eveina resisted. Tristan believed he had the right to hold her in place until she listened. "Let go." He did not. The studio door opened. Casiel entered, saw Tristan's hand around her wrist, and crossed the room without raising his voice. He removed Tristan's grip. "You don't touch someone after she tells you no." Tristan backed away. "You've been waiting for this. Haven't you, to play protector? To take what belongs to me?" Eveina stepped around Casiel before the scene could become a contest between men. "I am not something anyone can take." She faced Tristan. "If you contact my clients again, my attorney will handle it. If you come here without permission, I'll call the police. If you touch me again, you will deal with me." "Not Casiel." "Me." Casiel said nothing. He let her finish. Tristan left stunned. Afterward, Casiel glanced at her wrist. "Are you hurt?" "No." Eveina studied him. "Don't do anything. I'm thinking several things you would object to." "Then don't do them." A pause. "All right. You're just agreeing, you said no." The answer stayed with her. Weeks later, financial irregularities surfaced inside one of Tristan's largest developments. Inflated invoices, hidden liabilities, and payments routed through consulting firms drew auditors and investors. Eveina heard about it over dinner with Casiel. "Did you do this?" "I requested information concerning an investment that affects Romano Dominion. The irregularities were already there. A loan could disappear. A partner could withdraw. An alliance could end after one quiet conversation." Eveina set down her fork. "Can you ruin him?" "Yes." "How quickly?" "Quickly." Months earlier, the answer might have satisfied her. But revenge now felt like another room built around him. "Don't." Casiel's expression hardened. "Eveina, if you destroy him because he hurt me, then my future still revolves around Tristan." He went silent. "I kissed you because of him. That was enough. I don't want to love you because of him. I don't want my company saved because of him. And I don't want you burning down his life as some romantic gift to me. He interfered with your business. My attorney is handling it. He put his hands on you. And I told him what would happen if he did it again." Eveina touched his hand. "This isn't me protecting Tristan. It's me refusing to build the next chapter of my life around punishing him." After a long moment, Casiel nodded. "The investigations proceed independently. No interference on your behalf." That was enough. Gradually, the future Eveina had insisted on building took shape. Heart Atelier recovered both cancelled contracts through legal settlements. New work arrived that had nothing to do with Tristan or Casiel. The boutique hotel proposal brought 2 referrals. A residential development hired Eveina because the design director called her work bold without being cold. Instead of apologizing for the word bold, she put it on the studio presentation wall. She hired 2 designers and expanded into the neighboring space. Her confidence returned through ordinary decisions. She wore a red dress to a client dinner without wondering whether her body had earned the right to be noticed. She rejected a wealthy developer's suggestion without adding maybe or I could be wrong. She spoke first in meetings and stopped watching faces after expressing an opinion to see whether she needed to soften it. Months passed, and Tristan's investigations widened. Investors withdrew. Projects stalled. And Sloane eventually left him. Eveina heard the updates like weather reports from somewhere outside her life. 11. She had believed victory would mean watching Tristan lose everything. Now she understood that the real victory was forgetting to check. Heart Atelier occupied twice its original space. 4 designers worked beneath her name. And clients sought Eveina because her work was unmistakably hers. Casiel remained part of her life. But he was not proof that she had become valuable. He had never created that value. He had simply refused to ask her to hide it. Eveina had rebuilt the rest herself. By the time she looked back, Tristan was only a chapter she had outgrown. She no longer needed to be chosen to feel worthy, rescued to feel safe, or avenged to feel powerful. She had chosen herself, protected what she built, and learned that taking up space was not a flaw to correct. For once, her choices were no longer reactions to a man who had spent years teaching her to question herself. She was building a life that asked nobody's permission. By the time winter approached, Eveina and Casiel had stopped needing Tristan as a reason to be in the same room. Their relationship settled into smaller habits that felt more intimate than their first kiss. They argued about restaurants because Casiel distrusted reviews and Eveina enjoyed choosing places he considered overrated. He kept insulting Miles's coffee, even after Miles began dating someone else. Eveina discovered that the feared head of Romano Dominion preferred old jazz, while Casiel learned she would deny being hungry before stealing fries from his plate. He began appearing at Heart Atelier with real business questions and, sometimes, excuses so weak that Eveina laughed before he finished. One afternoon, she challenged a design change on a Romano property, telling him his executives were choosing prestige over comfort. Casiel disagreed. They argued for 20 minutes. Then he asked her to show him what she would do instead. The next morning, the project team received revised instructions based on her proposal. He had not agreed because he wanted to please her. He listened because her argument was better. That mattered more than any gift. Meanwhile, Tristan mattered less with every month. The investigations widened. Investors withdrew from projects whose numbers no longer inspired confidence. Partners who once treated his name as a guarantee began keeping their distance. Sloane remained beside him for a while. Then stories spread about his repeated attempts to contact Eveina. Eventually, Sloane understood what Eveina already knew. Tristan had not chosen one woman because he loved her more. He needed to feel that the people around him were still within reach. When Eveina heard that Sloane had left, she felt almost nothing. Months earlier, she might have wondered whether Tristan regretted the wedding or what his collapse meant for her. Now she was reviewing plans for a new project when someone mentioned it over lunch. She said, "That sounds complicated," and returned to the drawings. His failures became headlines she rarely opened. His name stopped producing anger, then stopped producing curiosity. Tristan was not defeated because Eveina watched him fall. In her life, he was defeated when she stopped needing to look. Casiel noticed before she did. One evening, long after the studio had closed, Eveina stood beside a table covered in stone samples and fabric books, while old jazz played softly from her phone. Casiel had brought dinner and ended up helping her reorganize materials, mostly by moving objects she had already arranged. Eveina caught him watching her. What she asked. "At first," he said, "I enjoyed watching him lose his mind." She gave him a flat look. "Romantic." I wasn't finished. Casiel stepped closer. There was no ballroom, no rival, no audience. Then I realized I stopped caring whether he was watching. Eveina's smile faded. The sentence was quieter than a declaration of love, yet it reached deeper. Their first kiss had existed because Tristan was there. It had been anger. Humiliation. and rebellion compressed into seconds. This moment existed because Tristan no longer mattered. Casiel wanted her when there was nobody left to defeat. No reputation to wound. No victory to claim. Eveina looked at the man whose power could influence companies and frighten enemies. Yet none of that power could decide what happened next. His hand settled at her waist and waited. Eveina understood the question inside the gesture. She answered by rising onto her toes and kissing him. This kiss held no fury and punished no one. It belonged only to desire, trust, and choice. A year after the failed wedding, Heart Atelier occupied twice its former space. 4 designers worked under Eveina's name, and clients sought the studio because its interiors were bold, warm, and unmistakably hers. Eveina no longer apologized when someone described her ideas as too strong. She wore what she wanted, spoke before checking whether the room approved, and disagreed without softening every sentence into a question. Casiel remained feared by nearly everyone who dealt with him. Romano dominion expanded internationally, and the darker network beneath its corporate surface remained something society preferred not to examine. With Eveina, power worked differently. He never interfered with her contracts, never decided whom she could meet, and never suggested she make herself quieter because important people were listening. When they disagreed, he could look irritated enough to make a boardroom nervous. Then he listened anyway. One evening, they stood on the terrace of his penthouse while city lights stretched beneath them. Casiel looked at her with the same unreadable expression he had worn after their first kiss. "Do you regret kissing me?" Eveina smiled. The first time his eyebrow rose. There have apparently been enough to require clarification. She stepped closer. The first was anger. Accurate. The second was curiosity. Also accurate. The third was probably your fault. Historically inaccurate. Eveina laughed and rested her hands around his neck. Casiel's hand settled at her waist. Familiar but never presumptuous. "And this one?" he asked. She remembered the bride beneath white roses, wondering whether abandonment confirmed every insecurity Tristan had planted inside her. That woman had believed being chosen by someone powerful might prove she was worthy. Eveina no longer needed proof. Heart Atelier was hers. So were her voice, body, ambition, boundaries, and future. Loving Casiel did not erase that independence. It survived because he had never asked her to surrender it. "This one is mine," she said, and kissed him. Months later, when Casiel asked her to marry him, Eveina made him wait 7 deliberate seconds before saying yes. She did not say yes because marrying the city's most feared man meant she had won. Tristan had stopped measuring victory long ago. She said yes because beneath Casiel's power was a restraint. Tristan had never understood he knew love did not create ownership. He could protect, argue, desire, and still leave the final choice with her. Most importantly, he had never asked Eveina to become smaller so he could feel bigger. She had spent years folding herself into a version that made someone else comfortable. She would never do that again. Whatever came next, Eveina Hart would meet it with her own voice, her own choices, and no apology for the space she occupied.